Hello and welcome to the Warhammer Podcast, episode 113. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, as always, Bricky.
Hi.
This is a very special episode thrown together last second, and Eric is out of town right now, so it's exactly what I warned you about in the future you haven't heard of yet.
Actually, Eric is in a grave because Brad actually needed someone who does play 40k to understand this list, and not just someone who's like, where's my paladin hammers?
Jesus Christ. It's so accurate, it hurts. You're beating the man up, he's not even here.
Listen, I was ready for them to add the hammers back in the brand new Dataslate change we are going to get today, right?
Yeah, I already know what the thumbnail of this episode is going to be on YouTube. I can already see Dataslate wear.
Oh, I was expecting my forehead to be shining again with like Brad or Eric was here stapled in.
You can be both. Brilio's a man of many talents.
You know what? We'll like cut out Eric's face, like Hannibal Lecter style, and we'll just put it on mine. Perfect.
Just Night Lords him, wear him as a suit.
That's a good point, Borrelio. You're not doing enough work. Can you make me a Night Lord this episode instead of the Penitent engine? I feel like it's a little bit more apt considering CSM today.
Yeah, so let's discuss the changes and lack thereof that are going on.
Sounds good.
That's all Eric says on this podcast. All right, real quick, for those of you who haven't figured it out already, this is episode 113. Episode 112 doesn't exist yet. We're recording this after 112, but it has to come out first in a timely manner. Borrelio is sacrificing his life this week. Please thank him. You have no idea how many hours he's putting in this weekend. In addition to that, we've got merch, including objective markers that have been MIA since a massive, for lack of a better term, fuck-up. And as the two men responsible for said fuck-up are here, hey, Bricky, where are those objective markers at?
Hi there. I think it should be better described as a single man's fuck up.
I'll take partial credit. I can't believe I never actually checked the quality of the goods other than, ooh, that looks pretty.
It's so unfortunate because in the entire history of Orchid, this is the only one that's ever happened, but it's a pretty gnarly one. Yes, the objective markers are very much on their way back. The delay is because we actually have created a system to where we can print them on demand. So if Brad ever comes to me with any kind of hilarious meme idea for an objective marker, we can pretty much whip that up within a week. But in order to do so and get the machines for it, it took us a bit longer. But I'm imagining it's only a couple more weeks before it's within your hands again. So apologies for the delay, but we have every single person who wanted new ones. They're all on a big old list, and we are ready to go whenever they arrive.
And then you'll be able to buy them again for those who were interested.
Yes.
And they'll be the right size this time.
And then eventually, once that's had a good roll, there'll be new objective markers that can be purchased. Maybe even some fancy TCG mats for a couple Magic players, because I'm sure we haven't forgotten about them.
In addition, as a final warning, the 100K question and answer episode, we're doing it live next week on May the 3rd. Me, Borrelio, Eric, unfortunately, too. We're all going to get together to answer all the stupid questions you ask. There will be a link in the description and the show notes and a pinned comment on YouTube where you can go and ask those questions. You have until then. I will be getting the questions together at the last moment, so get them in there. Also, seeing as this is the Dataslate episode, I'm going to officially announce I'm going to start working on Horde Mode 1.0's update, like the big release one. We have a lot of data now from people who have been beta testing. The AdMech changes I was waiting on didn't occur, so we're just going to start on making 1.0 happen, hopefully in the next 8 weeks, maybe 4 if you're real lucky, but probably 8 weeks. And as a final thing for my own pride, last episode, I mentioned uselessly that the next series that GW is working on was The Great Crusade. I was wildly incorrect. It was the other thing related to Horus Heresy, the Scouring, the one after Horus Heresy, but it's still the same era. The rest of my points stood, but I don't want people looking for a non-existent series that will never come out. It was the Scouring, I'm sorry.
I'm genuinely shocked to hear a podcast host get lore wrong. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Make him a pot. I can be a kettle and he can be a pot. All right, but enough of that. Let's jump into the episode proper now and discuss the points updates for spring of 2024. What an exciting topic name. I'm good at this job.
I am thoroughly whelmed.
All right, Bricky, where do we want to start? What do we want to talk about first? Do we want to get the big elephant in the room out of the way with where Dataslate?
I mean, I would like to get out of the room, but like the elephant clearly was never supposed to be in the room despite saying he was going to enter the room.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. I did go back and check the tapes. On last Dataslate, Metawatch, and the Metawatch between, they never specifically said that the next Dataslate was in spring, but boy oh boy, did everyone assume it was going to be after we started getting every 3-month Dataslates. And then this one comes out with the Metawatch saying like, by the way, Dataslates were never intended to be every 3 months. Y'all were wrong. We're not doing one. See you in July.
Yeah, I'm a little like, I can't tell how much of this is like my fault for believing or assuming, but I get this little bit of like lying by omission feel here, but I could be coping.
It feels a little underhanded, like they didn't say it because they were like, maybe we'll do one. And then when they didn't feel the need to do one, there was nothing pressingly wrong. They were like, fuck it. We'll just do it next time.
It's shocking too, because I don't know why they didn't feel the need to spend the last 3 months to do so. There were changes. There were definitely options. A couple very much struggling armies and some detachments that could really use some changes. But well, here we are. I guess in the last 3 months they just chose against it, and I guess it's going to take 6 months for reasons.
Especially for AdMech, which is like the most miserable one.
I mean, Guard is not doing poor, but God, do I wish they had a different detachment.
Okay, so that's a whole discussion I kind of want to have. This is conspiracy theory land. I don't have inside info or anything. I almost feel like if they're delaying the data slate for summer, and summer is the 1 year, our first anniversary of 10th, are they going to try to do the like, let's actually give all the indexes their second attachment?
Oh, so we want to do the 1 year, everyone finally gets a thing if they didn't get a thing already?
It's going to be a rough fucking edition if you're the last codex. Your existence is on 2 sheets of paper.
I don't know why, but it feels like we've been in 10th for longer than a year.
I don't want to get too negative, but yeah, it's not been my favorite start to an edition, even though I'm a younger player.
I have my pluses and my minuses.
It's a complicated discussion, but
it is.
I want to hold out hope that that'll be the big surprise that they come up with in July. Like the Tacoma Open happens 2 days before the data slate is like scheduled to happen based on my math. So it'll probably just be delayed 1 week and come out the week after the Tacoma Open. So boy oh boy, would the Tacoma Open make for a great place to announce the big like, by the way, next week, all you index armies, you're getting a second index.
All right, we are a little bit in conspiracy territory,
I know,
but
it's a blind hope.
See, unlike most conspiracies, however, this is a positive outcome. So maybe.
Remember when conspiracies were funny?
Yeah. All right, well, do we want to just go in alphabetical order?
Let's hit the point updates or lack thereof for every army and our general thoughts on them. I feel the need to give some lectures to people of like, if you see people doom posting over the fact that like 2 units went up by 10 points, unless you grind tournaments, which you're one of 100 people on Earth and you definitely aren't this person, it probably won't matter to you. You're probably not playing an efficient enough list that that's really going to be the make or break for you winning or losing a game in your life.
See, the unfortunate thing, and I still don't understand necessarily why Games Workshop is just unable to do this, is that big red arrow that go up, bad. Your unit dead. Have a little number next to arrow to say how much go up, make life easier. Yes, because big red arrow meaning 5 points or 30, very different.
We congratulated them last time for doing a really good job on improving their documentation to the current state. And then we asked them to like, let's push a little further, and it seems like they're just very content. Or they forgot they were supposed to do a balance update, and this is like one guy's last 3 days at the office.
The amount of effort it would take to put up 5 is not high. I could do it in an hour.
Yeah, but then you gotta repeat it for every single up or down. That's a lot of hours, Bricky.
I could do this whole data slate in an hour. The entire thing. I could cross-reference
Including choosing the points.
Oh goodness. Okay, let's start off with the army that you have gone on record saying has the worst lore you've ever seen.
I didn't say that. I said I'm not interested in it, and I'm going to again on the episode you hear in a few days. By the way,
Warhammer podcast. Big Red Arrow. Sister lore bad. Sisters. You mind if I take the reins for this one?
Yeah, let me tell you all about how I feel about playing Adeptus Sororitas.
Oh, perfect. Sisters are a top tier army right now, and a lot of people don't seem to really realize that. They consistently sit around the 54 to 56% win rate. I think the reason why people don't notice it much is because they aren't particularly cheesy. Their lists are wide and varied, and for the most part, their nerfs here and buffs are just internal codexes designs. Arcoflagellants got hit again because they kill everything and everyone, and they're surprisingly tanky. Death Cults and Crusaders were way too cheap, so they were very good action monkeys, so they went up a bit. Catherine was actually still really good, despite everyone saying it would suck with the Dataslate.
Oh, there's a few of those throughout this. I want to lecture a couple armies who were doom posting, and then we got the reality 12 weeks later, but...
Oh, yeah. No, Sisters were very good. It's also a little bit of an everyone else getting worse type thing, because your army rule works really well when people can't kill you as well. Mortifiers, Penitents went down. Cool. I like those. It's a 5 points, not a huge deal. And then just some other stuff like Ephrael Stern and Sacrosanct went down also. Honestly, this probably will change nothing. Arcos might get taken less, and then maybe you'll swap one out for like Repentia instead. Maybe you'll finally take a Sacrosanct Junith combo. Maybe you'll stick like a Mortifier somewhere randomly to go out and be annoying. Nothing changes. This changes the army from a 54% win rate to a 54% win rate.
I don't think for the vast majority of armies there's going to be too much that's going to change. A few of these, though, when we get to Custodes, there are changes. Severe ones.
You say severe changes. I see severe because green arrow. How severe they certainly are might be a little unsure.
Yeah. Custodes is a weird one because everything that is plastic went down in points. Everything that is Forge World went untouched because fuck you, stop buying it. But this is the Codex update. Like, this is your update for the Codex that is not out yet, which, if you haven't seen it, is taken as mostly a nerf for your faction. And even in the Metawatch video that they posted with the Minotaurum Field Manual, they went, Custodes is a bit on the high end over the comfort area we like, at like 55+%. So we're hoping their Codex can rein them in, which comes as like kind of a slap in the face.
I enjoy the use of just subtle language. We decided to go with a disciplinary process for our internal employee, and the employee was like scalped.
So yeah, we're going to see how much Custodes gets reined in. I don't know where they're going to end up. I know Custodes players think they're going to have a 2% win rate. My guess is 48. That's the number I'm going to throw at the dartboard.
I was going with 47, only because of initial Codex woes. I feel like it'll start lower than it actually is and then slowly rise, but...
As they figure out they're like one medalist like everyone does, yeah.
Can I offer a personal favorite of the Custodes Codex, though?
What?
This went down in points, and I don't necessarily know if its rules got changed in the new Codex, but I've always been a big fan of the goofy Venerable Contemptor Egg Dreadnought with its special ability to get back up on a 2-up with D6 wounds remaining.
I don't know if it kept that.
I don't know either, but it went down from 185 to 170, and for a 2-up save, you know, kind of punchy. Like, the idea of running 3 eggs that you run out there and then come back alive is just kind of funny to me.
How have I never heard a Contemptor called an egg, and it's the most apt thing ever?
It's literally just a big egg.
I swear I've never heard someone call it an egg until today.
But yeah, Custodes, big question marks across the board. You're probably not going to do great.
Every Custodes player is going to say that they're doomed. I haven't met one that's like, oh boy, the Codex looks great. They need their FAQ immediately that reminds you that, or devastating wounds everywhere in the Codex that says mortal wounds. As soon as that's out, then I think we're looking at probably not the worst faction in the game, but they're going to complain to holy hell, and rightfully in some ways. I don't want to fully laugh at Custodes players here. I understand some of your complaints, and I still have the whole lecture about 4 fucking detachments in a $60 codex. You have 9 pages of rules.
We talk about the difference between 9th and 10th here and there, but despite my large amount of issues with 9th's over complexity and excessive lethality, those codexes had a lot of rules and they were flavorful and they were fun.
Mostly yes.
Caveats exist.
Yeah. It's hard to not look with rose-tinted glasses, and then you crack open your 9th edition Necron codex and you close it again and you go, never mind, 10th's fine.
Yeah, but then I crack open my 9th edition Sisters Codex, and I'm like, wow, every single one of these is basically playable.
Casually, yes, I absolutely agree with you. But then there was the complaint of, like, you basically, after the detachment changes so that you could only run one sub-faction no matter how many detachments you took, you just ended up in Bloody Rose competitively in most cases.
I went 4-2 at LVO with Ebon Chalice.
Okay, fair.
I think more than anything, it feels like the discrepancy between the good and bad detachments in 10th is higher than it was in 9th.
I feel like part of it is your detachment is everything.
You're right.
So it's a lot easier with GW's balancing to really screw up between detachments instead of just between different codices.
You make a very good point. The old detachments were one warlord trait, one relic, one strat, and a rule, and then everything else was whatever.
So like 80% of your army was going to be the same. So it wasn't that big of a difference depending on which subfaction you picked. Now it's basically the rules of your entire faction other than your actual army rule. So there is a lot more room for bad detachments to occur. And that's, again, part of why I'm like, you have to have at least 6. It's insane to have only 4 options right now. After you've gotten your attention for the edition, you're done.
Speaking of bad attachments, Brad, Codex Adeptus Mechanicus.
Fuck. All right, yeah, this is the elephant. I held off on doing 1.0 of Horde mode for the last 3 months when I was on a roll doing updates to it because I was like, oh, in the February Metawatch, they gave the wink, wink, nudge, nudge that AdMech's getting a big change, and I don't feel like dealing with shit twice, so I'll just wait for that to happen and do 1.0 after it. And then this came out, and they're like, yeah, AdMech's pretty fucked right now, but see you in July.
And, you know, they're right. You are pretty fucked.
I do love that even in the video, the guy's like, we understand that if we actually balanced them, they would be a Horde army and everyone would be even more out for blood. So we're just going to give you some token decreases so that we can fix you later. And that's like literally what he says on the GW video.
Yeah, he's like, hey, just sorry, but you can play something else in the meantime because Call went down 30 and you're not going to take him. I mean, Rangers at 80 points is a little bit sassy, but then you get to be one of those lovely individuals who's collecting 60 Rangers because you are now a Horde army. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's really rough. I don't have good things for you, AdMech. It sucks. I'm sorry. I was sorry last time. Like, I knew you weren't getting an update last Dataslate. You just got a codex. But I figured that you were only 12 weeks away from getting fixes. I'm very sorry. It's going to be like literally 7+ months for you between your codex and your fix to your codex.
If you like Castellan robots, you get to have a good time with your buddy who is wasted on Cerveza Crystal in the middle of your garage. And that's lovely.
Oh, we play in the basement, sir. It's air conditioned.
Oh, that's right. We don't have basements in California.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. This is actually a geography difference thing. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, AdMech, enjoy your beer games with your buddies. Some of your models got a little better, and eat shit for 3 more months.
All right, Eldar, I don't care. I got the snottiest Eldar comment last episode from someone being like, Brad's Eldar hatred is not funny anymore. And I was like, motherfuckers, I'm on your side on this. I literally said you need better lore because Eldar players don't like it, and I would support them getting cooler lore. And I get comments like this. Fuck you, Eldar players. Fuck you, I don't care about you anymore.
I'm genuinely shocked. Normally, I take up the mantle of Eldar hater. So Eldar, genuinely, as someone who has fought a lot of Eldar on their side of the table in 10th edition, I actually really like the direction you went. A lot of your aspect warriors are better, and not just your characters specifically. Some got hit, like Swooping Hawks and Fugan. Fugan was kind of nuts, so I get it. But getting a little more melee, a little more infantry melee in an Eldar list is fun, because it pushes you away from running a bunch of support weapons, war walkers, and tanks like an asshole, and it makes you you an interesting dynamic army instead of just watch my Night Spinner ruin everything you know and love.
It's unfortunate for me because like the one part of Eldar I like is the Wraiths, and they were too abused this edition. So like all of my interest in Eldar is dead for the edition because they're not going to be playable again. They had their time in the sun and then some.
I hate Eldar for a lot of reasons, but if you were to force me to collect Eldar, I would go full stop into the Phoenix Lord kind of thing. And so seeing Scorpions and Banshees and just get better, like that kind of stuff, I got thumbs up. I like that kind of jazz.
I'd malicious compliance and just collect Harlequins and refuse to call it an Eldar army.
I mean, the Harlequin bomb is one of the biggest, strongest Eldar strats right now. Slap Yvraine with all like 11 troops and then the Vizark.
Sir, Yvraine, while she has a dump truck, is not a fucking Harlequin. I didn't say Ynnari. I said Harlequins.
All right, contrarian.
All right, Imperial Agents exist. Every time I mention Imperial Agents balance-wise, they don't matter until they're busted, and then everyone playing Imperium takes that model until it's balanced, and then no one will take it, and they will continue to not matter. Unfortunately, I have to kind of point out that even I am aware that AdMech was limping on Agents of the Imperium, and it's kind of funny that a couple competitive AdMech lists that were still keeping them at 45% are now above 2,000 points because they were relying on stuff like Calidus plus Kyria or whatever her name is.
Maybe I'm a little bit weird and I like the weird stuff. I mean, Calidus got nerfed because it's a very good Vect and she's just really good and objective everything. I actually have kind of felt like a max squad of Inquisitorial henchmen is kind of hilarious as a bomb. It's probably not good, but they have a very annoying profile that is incredibly hilarious to run. They're all 2 wounds for some reason instead of 1.
This is kind of like with 9th edition with Court of the Archon for Drukhari, where you could run like just an obnoxious weird ass unit that was somehow legal.
It's a little bit like that. I think it's just the simple fact that when you have an Inquisitor in that group, they're T3 2 wounds, but they're permanently -1 to wound. They're also 12-inch no deep strike bubble, +1 to wound with their ranged attacks, and a 5-up invul save. And then Kyria can give you a no shoot me with an 18 unless with an 18 inches bubble. It's just a little obnoxious and kind of funny, but it doesn't really matter. They only nerfed the smallest amount of Inquisitorial henchmen because it was too cheap and you were doing fun stuff with it.
IG, Astra Militarum. Remember how everyone bitched about how it was unfair that Manticores and everything else shot up in points and how Guard couldn't survive without them and they had to do it again because you still just kept running Manticores?
Remember when everyone was like, Guard is terrible, and then everyone was like, no, it's an S tier army, and then suddenly Guard started taking events? I must say, it's hilarious to see so many points increases on artillery again. The Bulgrin going up, I think, is actually valid. They're pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it's fair. The Khazarkin one is a lot of points going up. I don't know Guard. I don't know, like, if Khazarkin were getting played in some weird tech.
Okay, so Khazarkin, this is the fault of the British. They've been running triple Khazarkin. There's a particular ability that you can do with Khazarkin. I mean, they hit on 3s. They've got decent guns. There's something out there, my friend, called Meltamine, which is a be within 3 inches of an enemy unit at any start of the phase, and on a 2-up, do D3 mortals to it. But if it's a vehicle, do 2 D3 mortals to it. Turns out this unit also has Scout, 6 inches.
And it can res, can it?
It cannot res, but it can permanently have an order attached to it, in addition to another order. So you move it 6, it auto moves 9. After that, it gets in the midfield really well. And then after that, you pop out and you just yeet mortals and stuff and fire a bunch of guns. And for 100 points each, it wasn't bad. 120 might be a little nuts. Little high, but they were good. Can I talk about our Lord and Savior, the Leman Russ battle tank?
I like seeing it go down. I don't know your thoughts on it right now, but it's nice that it's going down.
The Leman Russ is one of those tanks that has a stat line that just feels undercosted naturally. It's T11 with, I think, 13 wounds and a 2-up save.
That is a shitload.
Yeah, it's extremely high amount, but people sometimes seem to forget that you get all the free war gear. So a regular Leman Russ battle tank at 170 is the turret, the heavy stubber, the hunter killer missile, the las cannon, and 2 multi-meltas or plasma cannons on the sides. And that's 170. And then if you're like, well, I don't care about the turret, but I want everything else, the Leman Russ Vanquisher is 145 for that package.
And it still has a turret.
It does. It's like a railgun, basically. It's not great, but also the Hydra is 85 points, and it's not great, but it's like also 85 points for T9 11 wound vehicle with a twin-linked anti-fly 2-up 913 autocannon. It's just kind of funky, you know?
So Guard is a Horde army. There's no getting around it.
Absolutely.
But it is sadly funny that in our episode where we break down the cost of each army, we noticed that like Guard was higher up than we expected on the list. It was higher up on its value because the Leman Russ was pretty good at like almost 200 points for only like 50 or 60 bucks or whatever the kit is. And there were so many of them that it really wasn't that expensive of an army if you were buying it like balanced and not buying like 600 troops. With the Leman Russ being only like 150 to 170 points, it's probably down near where Sisters and AdMech were. That was basically what was holding it up value-wise as a faction to make it not so awful to collect.
It's funny. It's all point drops on things you didn't see a ton of. The Tempestus Scions being 50 for 5 and having Deep Strike is pretty nasty, especially considering that their guns aren't terrible. Rough Riders being 60 for 5, 12 ppm for Rough Riders is actually kind of nasty as well. They're some surprisingly decent glass cannons. But as far as I'm concerned, the age of the Leman Russ is now, and you might get a couple of these other fun things moving around.
All right, let's talk Black Templars for a moment.
You have gone on record as being a big fan of Black Templars.
As we all know, I'm a great fan of them.
Yes, I know you love that joke. I know that you think it's very funny.
We'll hear on the episode later this week about Black Templars and my love for them. It's always kind of bad to be like, you were kind of in the okay window. You were one of the only Space Marines above 50% win rate, and you just 8 points everywhere.
So I don't think it's as bad as it appears. Black Templar players, you were getting free multi-meltas stapled onto all of your vehicles. Stop doing that. So I think your points ups are a little fair. The tanks went up 5 points for your multi-melta. The Crusader and Sword Brethren squad went up basically 10. It's not a big deal. This changes nothing.
All right, Blood Angels. This was the little bit of a spicy one because they even brought it up in the video, which normally is a suspect sign. You're trying to push a button to make a sus sound, aren't you?
No, I got rid of that, though I did appreciate the handoff. It's very interesting that normally, very old kit, the conspiracy is old Death Company kit, time to get those sales going, so they drop them. But they nerfed basically everything that was old and buffed some things that were new. Sanguinary Guard are still terrible.
They're going to be till you get a codex.
Based on the track record of the current codexes, I'm not quite sure if that bodes much confidence.
Minimum.
I guess Mephiston went down, so that's nice.
So my thought is, basically after watching the video, GW says in very PR-friendly terms of like, the Death Company is a very old kit, and if it was a new, properly designed kit, it wouldn't be able to have all of the options for free that it currently has. So we nerfed it because it's an old shitty kit.
Death Company are kind of wacky though. They get no OC basically, but you get free rerolls to hit, which you're already getting from oaths. So it's just kind of silly how Death Company operate.
I would not be surprised if the Death Company is limited when you get your codex to show the Assault Intercessor version and just be called Death Company, and for them to just disappear the old Marine version of it, where you don't get to have, what is it, like a Power Fist and a something else on every single model?
It's like a Power Fist and like an Inferno pistol on basically everything.
I wouldn't go buying that collection before the Blood Angels Codex drops.
Can I talk about the fact that the Death Company Dreadnought got a massive points drop of like 20 points, and it's still the thick box knot from back when that got sent to Legends?
I think it's still buyable.
It also has that funny, lovely rule where if you hurt it, it immediately shoots or hits you back.
So I was playing early in the edition, I played a bunch of Space Wolves, much to the chagrin of everyone who makes jokes. And I was playing a Murderfang list, and we learned that Murderfang is the funnest fucking thing ever, because he does the constantly fighting, no limit to fighting. If you want to fight, he'll fucking fight.
True, though the Death Company Dreads get full rerolls to hit baked in and are now 145 each with a 6-up feel no pain and a 2-up armor save. Very funny. Possible shenanigans available, as they also, with the Magna Grapple, get +2 to charge charge for monsters and vehicles.
See, this is the shit I live for. This is the funny list I would play. If I'm playing Space Marines, I want to do something interesting. I want to max out stupid dreadnoughts.
I would 100% run a triple dreadnought list and just find a way to shove them up the board and laugh as everyone tries to hurt me back. You want to talk about demons, Brad?
All right, we're done. Want to move on?
You know, I feel like demons did deserve a change.
They actually do, but I don't know if you're setting up for a comedy thing, so go for it.
No, the comedy is that I just don't know.
Okay, I do.
Okay, what should have changed?
Demons, overall, if you look at it as a faction and you don't think about it, is doing okay right now. If you play Tzeentch Demons, there ain't a fucking one in these lists. Tzeentch Demons is miserable right now. Is real bad because Thousand Suns were splashing them and we had to be punished. I say this is also a Thousand Suns player who was splashing them and deserved punishment. It's very aggravating when you have a single faction that is 4 factions. It's hard to not sound like a Space Marine player who's mad that their specific color of Space Marine is not meta and they have to flip the page to the next attachment. It's annoying to sound like that, but it's like, Demons is doing okay. The demons that I have thousands of points of are fucking trash right now. And there's problems all over from a flavor standpoint, but it's index season, so I can't really complain yet.
If you had a detachment that's specified in running a Tzeentch list perchance, some kind of thing of that nature, I imagine there'd be a better way to balance this out. But alas.
On my conspiracy theories I desperately hope exist, we have not seen a Codex announcement for any of the individual Chaos factions yet, and I'm really hoping they're sandbagging to announce the first one is like Codex Nurgle instead of Codex Death Guard. That would be my ideal world. That won't happen.
I believe you might be huffing what the kids like to call copium a little bit.
Is it hopium or copium in this case?
Hopium would be the excitement. Copium would be the coping part.
Either way, my back hurts. Let's move on.
Chaos Knights. Your big knights are trash. They should have gone down more. They didn't. Goodbye.
We got punished for knights, and then we never got unpunished enough.
I desperately want the Knight Despoiler to go down because you can run it with double Gatling cannons.
It is literally the reason I own Chaos Knights, is that specific model with those specific arms.
The idea of pointing at something and saying, here's 36 shots at 622, and how about a couple flamers just for a little bit of taste. Very fun.
The double Gatling cannon Despoiler is the exact model that got me into Chaos Knight collecting, and then many drunken eBay purchases later, I own a lot of points of Chaos Knights I very rarely take off a shelf, because I don't tend to enjoy how they actually play in practice when you're trying to win against your friends who are pretty experienced in playing, or Eric. All right, Chaos Space Marines, pretty decent point change for you. I did incorrect shot call last data slate. I said, oh boy, CSM, they took some hits, but people are already thinking up ideas in the CSM communities I follow of like, hey, maybe it won't be so bad. It was so bad. It was not a great 12 weeks there. These actually look like decent changes though.
I'm not gonna lie, I was still kind of chaos pilled. I think people were just simply not adapting properly because CSM constantly had like a 44% win rate, which just didn't seem right.
I don't like any fucking strategy that's like, yo, if we just play 3 Chaos Vindicators, a model nobody fucking owns, and no one would properly play in a CSM army, this is how we can win. That's not really where I want to be with an army.
So I was kind of tossing around a build idea for a while. Kind of thought to myself, you know, I really like just legionaries. They're a lot of fun. They get reroll 1s to wound in melee with full rerolls to wound on the objective marker, which means you do not need the dark chaos undivided stratagem for them. And they went down 10 for 5 and then 20 for 10. And I kind of thought to myself, there's a lot of good character support in this army between the Lords, Lucius the Eternal, Fabius Bile, just a regular sorcerer, Dark Apostle. There's some options there. And then the legionaries went down. And then so did a lot of other just foot space marines for the most part. Havocs, Raptors, Possessed, Terminators. Terminators went down basically across the entire board. Can I talk about one of my more goofy units in CSM? Can I talk about the cultist mob?
Dude, okay, I'm here for this. I fucking love cultist spam.
Okay, so accursed cultists didn't get changed, as they were very good.
They're very good. It's fine.
So cultist mob went down 5, so it's 100 for 20 models. They get sticky, cool, whatever. But there's 20 models at OC1, it's kind of whatever. But they have a free special weapon for every 10 models in the unit, and that's a grenade launcher, a heavy stubber, and a flamer. And you get 2 per if you have a 20 model unit. And it may not be great with their 6-up save and everything, but kind of just putting in deep strike reserves, 20 cultists, and then popping out and be like, here's 2 flamers and 2 heavy stubbers and 2 grenade launchers and a bunch of either las guns or maybe a couple assault weapons, and then I charge you and just really annoy you.
The last part is what sells me. Before that, I'm like, this is a bad Genestealer Cult blob. But then running 20 models at you and getting you stuck in that tar pit, especially because there's defensive things you can do to cultists, right? I'm trying to think. I don't have everything memorized for CSM.
Well, I mean, you can dark pact them, and for me, it kind of comes down to dark pacting them with Tzeentch, because then you get lethal hits on 5 ups for your entire shooting section.
Okay, now it is a good Genestealer Cult blob. Now we're actually back to a good combo.
Because the heavy stubber you put in that unit is rapid fire 3, so it gets 7 shots when you just pop them out, and it hits on 5s anyway, so it's only going to be lethals regardless. It's just, it's got some funniness to it.
The cultist 5-man leader, what's the effect?
It gives them a 5-up invul save.
That's good for tar pitting.
And it also allows them to, once per game, advance and charge, as well as giving them +1 to hit and wound.
That's pretty good. This is exactly the type of shit I do.
Unfortunately, the unit is 65 points, which is a bit high, but it is kind of funny.
But 165 for 25 of these models, the leader's not great, but it's not the worst thing ever.
He does have a psychic attack that's kind of funny.
Okay, so here's one thing. The Demon Prince went down.
He did.
And I am a fan of the Corn-Winged Demon Prince taking the enhancement. I didn't want to call it a relic. I feel like that's decent now. So I know from Chaos Demons, the Demon Princes do have issues with actually dealing with anything that's worth chasing down. I'm aware of the limits right now, Demon Prince wise, but this is probably my favorite way to make a melee assassin piece Demon Prince right now.
It could work. I think the winged one might be better in World Eaters for all of the World Eater reasons.
Fair.
But it's not bad. 180 is still a chunk of change. Can we talk about how my boy, my man, the best thing that's happened to Chaos in 10 years, Vashtor the Archifane, has not received another points drop, despite being arguably the worst model in the entire codex?
Points are going to save this motherfucker.
He could go down 40 points and at least be a thick boy that's annoying, and they won't even do him that justice.
So it's worth remembering, the next codex is Chaos Space Marines.
God, please. Anything for Versace.
He could end up getting the lion treatment and becoming even worse.
Oh, Lion got his own thing too. Can I talk about another fun thing? I got 2 fun CSM ideas.
Go for it. We've got nothing but time. Borrelio loves editing.
So more like 4th, it's a lot. So the whole legionary spam idea I really like. You take a bunch of 10 bricks of legionaries, you slap them with a bunch of people like Lucius, Bile, etc. Good times. Harken and 10 raptors is kind of nasty. It's 260 for all of them, but they do on a 4-up do mortal wounds at the end of your charge phase, which is an average of 4 to 6 mortals, plus a whole bunch of just slappy attacks from both the raptors, some battle shock shenanigans, and Harken, who actually kind of hits. It's a very silly kind of bounce around skirmish unit that's a little funny.
Okay.
But I don't remember if this was FAQ, but do you remember the rule for the Hellbrute?
I'm stuck on the Thousand Suns Hellbrute and everything with that, so no. What's the one for CSM?
So it allows you, when you Dark Pact within 6 inches, you get both benefits. You get both sustained and lethal. And I don't remember if this is FAQ, but based on the way the God Pacts work, is that if you take one of those, you can go ahead and when you get both packs, technically you get 5 ups for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Hellbrute went down, and so did Havocs.
Oh, so just run them as a bomb.
A Hellbrute and 2 Havocs right next to each other is a grand spanking total of 370 points. And that is 8 las cannon shots coming out with exploding and lethal 5-ups.
Lethal's less, it's still something. Lethal's less important the higher your strength, but it's still something. So yes, it is still, that's pretty hot.
Also, Havocs get to ignore all modifiers to the hit roll and ballistic skill characteristic naturally. So it's a bit silly for 370, barely over a seventh, about a sixth of your army. That's a lot of shots.
I'm with this. I really do like this. However, I feel the need to be the parent for a moment and remind you, Chaos Space Marines is about to get a codex. If you don't own the models to do a fun combo that we think of, don't go buy them assuming that by the time you build them, paint them, and get to play with them with your fancy new codex that this will work the same way. Every codex is screwed with things that were in the index. Do not assume that your Chaos Vindicator is going to be good when you get to play with it. It has the word Chaos in front. They don't have to give you the Space Marine stat line.
He is correct. However, I own all of these, so I will be having a good time.
If you already own it, fucking do it. It sounds fun. But I'm just saying, like, I don't want people being like, you baited me into buying a bunch of shit that got nerfed 3 weeks later.
Speaking of bait, Lionel Johnson.
He's only 300 points.
Dropped 50 points.
Give me 50 more and I might.
That was basically what I was going to say.
I'm sorry, I stole your joke.
Lion, you may have starred in arguably one of the best 40k novels ever written. I'm not running you.
He got to be a terror for like 10 minutes at the end of 9th, and now he's just bodied.
It's 300 for a very good duelist.
Foot duelist, which is always the worst thing to be.
You gotta be more than that, man.
I don't think he's wholly unplayable at 300, memes aside. He still has to go down. Casually, he's not going to be as embarrassing as he was. He was downright a handicap on yourself to help your opponent out. I still wouldn't recommend playing with him yet. I'm actually kind of shocked of everything. It's Azazel, right? Who is getting run in the meta list.
I'm roll that back. It's who?
Asriel, sorry. It's
Asriel,
right?
I thought this was like a bit. Azazel is, I thought that was just like what you called him as a joke.
No, my brain's not very good.
Ah, okay. It's Asriel.
Kind of shocked he didn't get a spike up. Just randomly, like they tend to do, where it's like this one unit sees play, fuck them, even though the faction's not in a great spot.
So that's interesting you say that. And I think that might be something we chat about when we get to Space Marines normally.
It happened in other armies, absolutely. But it's just weird that the Dark Angel model didn't get it.
I will say I'm very happy that the Inner Circle companions got a drop. I think their minis look incredible.
They're the coolest model.
And considering that they are basically just hidden, risen, fallen Marines, it's just very neat. They've got a great looking effect to their weapons, and they got some surprisingly decent rules. But yeah, going down 15 per 3, I think was a good idea.
All right, Death Guard, you existed. You were doing fine. You didn't really get touched.
Your Hellbrute went down. Congratulations. I almost feel like Mortarion could have gone down maybe a little. I don't think he's very good.
They were pretty conservative on this, honestly. Not just for Death Guard, just in a lot of factions, having scrolled through this already.
Deathwatch, speaking of, wow.
This is the most proof I've seen for that one random rumor that everyone was trying to run around with. That Deathwatch is getting moved into the unannounced codex coming this summer that's going to be Imperial Agents plus Deathwatch plus possibly Grey Knights as a single faction now.
I mean, that is a hefty statement, but nothing changed here. I was in my mind thinking Deathwatch didn't get any point changes. I wonder if they got something in the data slate, you know?
Yeah, when you didn't know there wasn't a data slate yet.
Maybe they did, and you just don't get to see it for 3 more months. I have no clue. The strangest thing is that Terminators went down across the board. Everything basically got a drop in Terminators, minus a couple. I don't think Death Guard didn't get a change, for example, but their Terminators are fine. The Deathwatch Terminator squad did not change one bit. Even the Dark Angel Terminators went down. How do I put this nicely? It's so inept. I have to imagine something is going on underneath the hood, but I've been wrong before.
To speed on through again, Drukhari, we We exist. We had a very nice data slate last time. Everyone was very happy with the results. We're doing okay now. We have a real index detachment. It only took the second try. We didn't get any changes.
I actually don't think you need any.
We are so much happier than 12 weeks ago. Just leave us alone for a bit.
Maybe a couple covens because we got some changes, but honestly, it's fine.
I made it work in my casual games I was playing with it. I don't think I would bring Drukhari to a tournament right now, but whatever.
Genestealer Cults, you guys aren't doing great, but the people that play you are so small that I never know how you actually are doing, if I'm being honest.
The aberrance going back down is GW saying, okay, sorry, we fucked up. It was spiteful. Last time they jumped them so much, and it was like, why the fuck did you do this?
I do like them lowering some of the vehicles. It's nice to see some vehicles go down. Maybe you'll get a little bit better early game pressure.
I still don't really like some of the data slate change. They are within the comfort window. There's no real reason to do any changes back. It's overall fine. I don't think they'll get touched until they get a codex at this point.
Can I just mention how the Reductus Saboteur might be the most overloaded kit unit in the entire game?
4 points. You could make the argument.
I don't know, man. If you look at once per battle, D3 plus 3 mortal wounds on a 2-up when your opponent moves. Also, you get grenades for free, which is an average of 3 more mortal wounds. Also, here's a one-shot demolition charge that has assault that you can use easily. Also, here is an indirect fire blast weapon at 501, 65 points, lone op, infiltrator, stealth, deep strike.
4 points, absolutely, arguably the most. It's just hard when you get to the 300 point models that clearly have more going on. But yeah, at 65 points, it's kind of crazy what she can do.
If I ran GST, I would take 3 until someone tells me otherwise.
I love the model too, other than I hate all Genestealer heads, but her model is just that very classy. It's one of the ones I have the fewest plans to alter with my Genestealer army when I eventually get to building it. I have ideas for basically every character, but hers is getting very few alterations.
I would agree. It looks really good. Grey Knights. Eric isn't here to talk about this.
Oh no, without his expertise, how will we be able to talk about Grey Knights?
Grey Knights, you were taking a couple tourneys because your Dread Knight was insane, and you also had a Tech Marine that made him good.
We did call that last time though.
You did. You really did.
That was so obvious. Wow, the Dread Knight went down. I loved 9th edition.
So that was too good, and so both of those got hit. Also, the Librarian occasionally laughing and doing 2d6 mortal wounds was a bit much also.
It's like the last toy in the army. The Librarian's allowed to be fun.
I remember when I looked at Grey Knights, I was like, I forgot, these guys all have a 2-up save now. Why aren't people just spamming a lot of Marine bodies with 2-ups and putting them in cover?
Because they were expensive as
and
balls.
And that was at the points, and I was like, oh, that's why they're not doing it. But now they all went down, so yay?
They went down 5 points.
But Green Arrow, Brad, Green Arrow.
Green Arrow, they are sure playable now. They went down 5 points. I guess if you were playing 10 of them and a Dread Knight, you're flush.
Maybe Crow and 10 Purifiers might be kind of neat, because that kind of slaps a little bit.
I'm always a fan of that, honestly. That was one of the things early in the edition we were playing with a lot. It's not like the meta Grey Knight build, but it's an actual fun 10-man, or 11 technically.
Yeah, and Crow is a baller, and his new model is awesome.
Yes. Imperial Knights.
Lamau.
Leagues of Votann.
Big Knight, make better, please.
No. Imperial Knights literally just needs the data slate to swap which rule they lost.
The Bondsman?
Yeah, losing that made them have the same problem we have in Chaos Knights of you now no longer have a reason to make a balanced army. It was the rule to keep. Fuck your oaths. The Bondsman made for better list building.
And it was fluffy.
If you had to lose one, they're both very fluffy rules, but one of them leads to healthier lists.
Leagues of Votann.
There's technically a change. They're doing fine. It doesn't really matter.
I went 3-2 with a 6 squad of Hearthkin Warrior list. It was very fun.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't know you owned Votann.
I do. It's not much to own. So I'm not a big dwarf lover.
I knew that.
I love corporate sci-fi. Love it. So
okay.
That's big for me. Uthar the Destined is the worst named character I've ever seen. I hate his guts. But Hearthkin Warriors going down makes me happy because I have 60 of them and I actually really like them. I think they look great.
All right. Necrons, we actually have stuff to talk about.
And we both own this army, so...
Yes, this is one where I can actually give some pretty good opinions on.
I'll be the judge of that.
Catan change. This is sane. Please make this be right.
I am okay with this.
Let this just be right and we're done. This is not a giant kick in the balls. It's enough enough that now, like, when you spam Catan, it's because it's fun. It's not because it's the best list. Now that it was really the best list in my opinion, but it was close and it made people more angry than the best list. Monolith going up, I don't really care. I kind of still hate the idea of the entire Hypercrypt detachment thing being 1 of 5. Whatever.
Nightbringer going up 40 was maybe just like seeing that visually is like, whoa, but it's deserved.
These Catan changes are on the conservative end of what I was guessing. I'll put it that way. I really didn't think that we were going to see anything under 300, including Deceiver's useless ass.
You know, Deceiver, I'm a little bit of a fan of. All you got to do is swap that redeploy to after the first turn is determined.
Absolutely.
And you've got a very decent unit there. Also, he has stealth. He has stealth naturally, which is kind of fun. But yeah, oh well.
As for other changes, a lot of this is the classic, if it sees play, it went up. If it doesn't see play, it went down. I am very, very, very happy that they realize the Scorpec Lord is a waste of fucking points, and that he is finally going down to a proper point count he should have been at the start. He started this edition at 130.
Yeah, so I actually, okay, I played a game with a buddy on TTS, which of course is not fully indicative, but I did a little bit of that, and I was thinking to myself, you know, they brought down all these units. Triple Scorpec Lord, triple Scorpec is kind of funny. It was like 900 points for all of them.
You're saying just play Awakened Dynasty.
Awakened Dynasty, exactly. You know, you run that kind of way because then you get the reroll 1s, but then you're hanging on 2s. Great stuff, great stuff. Plus, it's just all this extra kind of crap you can run with. But now that they have that, and it's 260 for a squad of 6 plus the Lord, and like these are not unchunky models. They've got some beef to them. The Scorpec Lord being T7 and 7 wounds with a 4-up invul is kind of nasty.
It's okay at this point count. It's still real bad when you compare it to anything like a Dread that it costs the same as.
Very true.
Okay, Death Marks, still never going to see play.
I love my Death Marks. I love them. I don't know, man. Death Marks, 60 for 5, just free shoot stuff. I don't know. It's like a fun deterrent sometimes.
Flayed ones, I think, are actually like Scorpec. They're very playable now. Flayed ones never, ever buy the official sculpt at its current price in these points. Jesus Christ.
It is such a ripoff.
You would spend like $500 to put 300 and something points in a list.
Immortals are suffering the sins of the Plasmancer, it would appear.
I'm not going to pity my Immortals going up. If anything, Warriors could have gone down, but I hate Warriors, so I'm not going to complain personally, but from a purely objective standpoint, I actually think they could have gone down. But at the same time, Necrons were doing too well. You definitely don't want to accidentally unleash the next best list. So everything that's lower in points is a very safe pick for them. They're not going to be in the best list anyway. That's fine. The real thing is, like, both of the best lists, all of them got hit in some way in various amounts. The Canoptic Court got out better than Hypercrypt, which I'm happy about because I love my Canoptics. They still got hit though. The Technomancer change is actually pretty big because we were spamming it with Wraiths. So Wraiths are technically more expensive even though they didn't directly get hit. It's still going to eat basically a unit out of a list. It's still probably the best way on paper to play this.
I gotta be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Technomancer change. It was something they specifically called out in their video because the Wraiths themselves were not great on their own. With Technomancer, they became very, very good. But by doing so, you've kind of neutered any kind of build crafting with a Technomancer to mix with Warriors or Immortals, especially considering that the Warriors did not go down and the Immortals went up.
I guess, but I think the problem there, I agree with you, but I think their thought is, I don't think they wanted you playing your Immortals the way we've played them. They wanted you to play them with an Overlord and do the generic bullshit. Like, that's what they envisioned us doing, rather than playing with our Cryptek variants.
Basically, all I'm saying is, like, the Technomancer could have been put in other units without issue, but now, even though it was a nerf to Wraiths, you're now taking the Technomancer and you're only putting it with Wraiths, because that's the only thing that's worth that point cost.
Am I playing my Immortals with it if I'm trying to try hard anyway?
I mean, it's a 5-up, feel no pain.
I guess.
I mean, if you're trying to try hard, sure, but even if you're casual, you're not putting an 85-point Technomancer in your newly expensive Immortals.
Yeah.
A Technomancer and a 20 blob of warriors, kind of funny. Got a little bit of shenanigans going on there, but I don't know. It's just nice seeing the score pecs go down.
The Necron changes overall. As a Necron player, I'm totally fine with what we got away with. I expect we're still on the high end of 50 after this. I'm hoping we're low enough that we lose all aggro and no one notices us for a couple months.
No change to the Locust Lord and Locust Destroyers. That's gonna show up a bit. That was a Hypercrypt staple, was bringing those boys out with the enhancement.
Yeah, I think if you're going to continue playing Hypercrypt, you still play Monolith, you probably just drop the Catons. Maybe you run one.
Maybe you run Deceiver. You might stick Transcendent. It didn't get his bad, basically. It's got hit by 10 points, whatever. You don't run a bunch of Catan. You might run a Catan.
The bunch of Catan, I'm very happy that I didn't get my toy taken away for casual play, and now I don't feel bad playing it. Like, I can get drunk and play a bunch of Catan and no one's going to complain.
I would have maybe enjoyed a 10 point or 20 point drop on the Silent King personally, but I feel like it's a bit sleeper right now, actually. He was ran quite often in the Necron mirror match because his ignore modifiers aura ruined Catan, which was very funny.
It's okay to still give him a buff because when your reason is teching a specific matchup, I don't put that towards how good a unit is, if that makes sense. If it's not for a take all comers reason, if it's because of a warped meta reason, I'm not holding that against a unit.
I would agree.
So I could definitely see him going down, even though he was seeing some amount of play. His reason for play should not be a thing anymore, so we shouldn't be holding that against him to keep him where he is.
I do find ignore modifiers to be a very, very good ability, and a 6-inch aura of ignore modifiers on a unit like this is pretty good.
I wonder how much of that is because you just assume Catan are going to be around.
I mean, I think just the fact that you can invalidate any form of -1 to hit, wound, damage reduction, etc.
But like Custodes also doesn't have it now.
True.
I think the value of that has actually decreased in a couple unrelated ways at once. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base.
I would agree, but he also has a different choice of an ability, which is just reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 for the 6-inch aura, which was never bad.
It is funny how much we're like very seriously discussing this army we both play, and on several other armies we're like, Lamau, I don't care.
Well, Necrons were top dog. I think this is one of those ones we had to talk about.
It's fair. It's just I feel bad. I don't tend to feel anything.
Do you want to talk about the new big boss, pun intended, of the world right now?
So Eric did actually want to be here for this one.
The boss is watching.
Meet your sequel to what I said last time of just let Necrons have their fun for 12 weeks before they get their PP slapped. Let Orc players have their fun for 12 weeks before they inevitably get their PP slapped. This is not going to end up okay, I don't think.
Mega knobs at 30 ppm. What are you doing? Oh no.
Okay, so Eric will not let me get away with not mentioning the Morkanaut technically went down in points. Everyone cheer for the Morkanaut.
I like the Morkanaut. I'm going to cheer for him.
He fucking loves the Morkanaut.
I like the Morkanaut. I'm cheering for him.
Okay, so his favorite is still the Stompa for meme reasons.
I do love how the Stompa specifically has been brought in a brand new Battle Force box, and it is still 800 points.
I know his thoughts on the Stompa is it doesn't matter how bad it is, he'll still play one. But the Morkanaut is like his non-meme, it's really not that bad. Like, it's not going to win a tournament, but like, you're not putting yourself at a disadvantage tossing it in a list for funsies. I actually think the Morkanaut might be decent now. Like legitimately, you may see someone in like a 4-1 and they've got a Morkanaut in their list and everyone goes, holy shit. But in general, yeah, the real problems are going to be things like, as you said immediately, the Mega Knobs is going to be a monstrosity.
Yeah, I'm pretty frightened. I actually think we might see a pretty nasty group of walkers. I think the Killicans are priced very, very well.
Getting into that, I think this is going to be not Eldar level broken. I don't think they're that bad. I think this is going to be a game of hit the weasel.
Whack-a-mole.
It's going to be, there's a best list, it gets hit, and we found out there's a 1% worse list that was completely unrelated, and then everyone blames GW for not hitting that one they didn't know about. And we're going to have that for the next couple data slates if they handle this well and just, tweak down rather than just try to nuke things from orbit. Because I do think you're right about like the Killicans going for that direction instead of going the knobs direction. And then like I was seeing Eric play with a buggy list and doing some math on that, and I've seen all the math people have been doing about that fucking boys detachment and how much you could make that a headache. I think there's just going to be several good lists to start out with, and they're all going to need individual attention paid to see if they're problems.
I think I would agree. I'm looking at this, and with the exception of the mega knobs being a very clear issue, I look at almost every detachment and I think this might be a problem.
But like, only might. I'm not going to say they're all broken. It's like, this has potential.
It's also how you math it, because for the most part, everyone is mathing out the boys' damage, which is terrifying. But the boys don't really do well when they get hit back. And it's like, it's very scary when you see 20 boys running up in a detachment and then they get shot up and then it doesn't matter.
I don't think that's true. We were running the math on it. It's insane how much shooting it takes to get rid of them now.
Is it really?
Because they have a 5-up invuln. You will never get them to save worse than a 5-up. So part of this was people were teching against Custodes and Necrons.
Right, lots of anti-elite.
Yeah. And when you do that, 20 boys with 5-up invulns is fucking nightmarish. Like, there's a lot of armies when you look at it and you're like, what's their best way to deal with that many boys? And you're like, fucking don't.
Yeah, that is very true. Maybe I'm the weirdo because I am the kind of guy who rolls up with like 4 squads of just Cadians, and Lasguns wounding on 5s is still some damage, and like I'll start getting stuff through.
That type of list is probably going to be fine into the boys spam thing. This is where it's like metas have to shift. This is the whole lesson of why you're not supposed to try to buy into something for meta reasons, of like, people are going to have to adapt to the change in the meta, the lack of Custodes and all the top tables and Necrons and, you know, whoever else got nerfed. And now Orks being played in 2 different ways, or 4, who knows, or maybe they all suck except for 1. But like, when that changes, other lists will change around that fact, and then new top dogs appear who weren't that way before. And this is where it will evolve with time. It will be a problem for a few weeks, and then things will adjust. And then some things may always be a problem, but most of them will be compensated for by the rest of the meta adjusting.
To put it in as quick of a terms as I can, I am scared. I am not Eldar 10th edition beginning scared. I am still scared.
They have had a very good track record of handling armies recently. I know for some competitive players, they're rolling their eyes and bitching about a 5% win rate difference. Compared to historically with how GW has handled balance through every edition, 9th was a huge upgrade compared to everything before it. 10th has gone even better than 9th, if we're just being honest about where the window of wins and losses for each faction is. Is it ideal? No, but it's better than it's ever been. I trust them to be dealing with this decently.
I don't trust them, but you are correct.
That being said, we can also talk about, for 2 seconds, shout out to any Orc players who thought they were going to play a Forge World model. Rip bozos.
Borelio, please place the Reddit comment that was found. It is the best one I could possibly think of when it comes to this situation.
Yes, Bricky found quite the comment.
Grot tank lovers, I am so sorry.
I'm not, but also it was a Forge World model, so I was never going to be sorry for you trusting its existence.
I'm sorry because Orcs and Forge World are maybe a little bit more acceptable because it's Orcs, but where were you when Grot Tank was kill?
Look, I'm going to say this right now. If you're in Knights or Custodes and you buy a Forge World model that has been guaranteed by GW to be safe, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, no, you're right. He said it with his chest. I appreciate it.
This has been so telegraphed in everything GW has done in every one of their games recently. Forge World models are not safe. Resin models are not safe. If you are playing 40k or AOS and it is not made of GW plastic with a GW stamp on it that is not Forge World, stay the fuck away. It's a bad investment. If you buy it knowing that, that's fine. But do not complain to me later. I bought this after they said it'd be okay. Why did the leopards eat my face?
I mean, I bought all of the brand new Horus Heresy dreadnoughts for my Night Lord's army.
I printed them and I still feel sour.
I mean, Grot Tank was kill. I am sad about that for all of you, but I'm particularly sad about the heresy stuff. I can't wait to convert all this new guard stuff from the Solar Exilia to guard 40k.
I unironically have been looking at that. It's tempting. I do love their Dead Space aesthetic.
Little steampunk Dead Space, yeah.
I just love that engineer suit.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Anyway, Space Marines.
Beaky boys. I don't know.
I don't care.
I do care. I don't know. Space Marines are historically one of the armies whose win rate never makes sense because it is the most popular army and it's played by dads. And that's great, and that's always a fun time. But then you'll say like Space Marines have like a 42% win rate, which is the gutter, but it actually isn't really like that. And so how do you adjust it?
Look, as a Space Marine casual, I like Hellblasters. They went down in points. I like the Brutalis Dread. It's down in points. I like Assault Intercessors with jump packs. That kit sucks balls, but they went down in points. The Eliminator I love too, but I guess the Eliminators weren't allowed to stay at their current points because of the stupid bullshit you can do with the move them with the Impulsor double shoot bullshit.
I've actually never heard of this.
Eliminators have the move, the shoot and move, and apparently rules is written.
Oh, if it makes an attack with that bolt rifle, and since you fire from firing, I get it.
So you just do the impulsor trick with it to basically shoot twice with the unit. So they went up in points. Instead of getting a proper FAQ to get rid of that interaction, I guess they were like, that interaction is actually really cool, even if it's gamey, so you can keep it, but you're gonna fucking pay for it.
That's dumb.
I kind of think it's dumb too, but whatever.
Hellblasters got better. Hellblasters, I think, were already pretty all right. Hellblasters with Azrael, I think, is going to get a little disgusting.
This is my problem, is like, that's like the cool part of Dark Angels. I'm okay with that. Let them have it.
I'm not going to lie, this one tickles me something fierce. No one looked at it because no one cared. Tactical Squad went down 20 points. These are 14 points per model Space Marine bodies.
Buy them now before they don't exist next edition.
Because they won't.
And get your Vindicator and your Rhino and your... what Rhino variants are still alive?
The Razorback?
The Razorback. Buy all of those right now to get them off of GW shelves before they don't exist in 2.5 years.
The simple concept that you can run about 60 Marine bodies for 840 points is kind of funny to me. It's not great, but that's a lot of stuff. And they have 2 OC and a couple special weapons and a lot of bolters. And that's just kind of funny to me. I still don't think it's good. Do not buy Tactical Marines.
10 Tactical Marines cost 20 more points than 10 Kasrkins.
What have you done to my Cadia? Oh, Lee. All right. Space Wolves, your Termies went down like everyone else, and your Wolf Scouts went... Let's go back to Necrons.
Okay. From everything I've heard, the only complaint people have who play against Space Wolves regularly is a lot of people were sour that Thunderwolf Cavalry weren't touched. I agree. Fuck them.
Stormlance, Thunderwolf, really dumb.
But overall, Space Wolves was actually doing pretty well. They technically didn't get touched, so they might actually be, like, real good right now. Unless they have a bad Orks matchup.
All right, Brad, it's your time. Tau Empire.
Tau, I would love to talk about you. This is where I have to get real sour with GW. The Tau Codex isn't out, might be your excuse for why we don't have points for the Tau Codex listed here. The Codex isn't out for 2 other armies who have their codexes listed here. In fact, if you were to go on the official Games Workshop app right now, you can no longer look at your fucking rules for Custodes or Orks, even though you cannot buy the Codex yet. Tau, I have the Codex at my brother's house. I can't see the fucking points yet. It is 10 days away. Just put them in the fucking... They're gonna be like, oh, we'll just do it as soon as the Codex drops. And it's like, if you guys go home for the week and go, fuck, I forgot to do the Tau Codex points. I don't know. I'm just really mad. It's like 10 fucking days. You couldn't just post the points for something that's been out for 2 months.
I genuinely don't get it. I feel as if almost every single issue revolving around Games Workshop is that one head is not talking to the other head.
I'm worried that the 2 heads are just arguing constantly.
That also makes sense. I feel like a large majority of corporate incompetence is the heads aren't talking. If you told me that the modeling team and the game writing team and etc. were not talking to each other, it would not surprise me.
Anyway, let's move on to T-Suns. I think you have something to say and then I do. So let's hear your take on Thousand Suns.
All right, so this is my take on Thousand Suns from someone who does not play T-Suns, who has fought T-Suns. I think T-Suns is incredibly sleeper. I think they've been sleeper, and I think it's all about the person being able to properly utilize the stuff right. Unfortunately, T-Sun's also been incredibly boring because if you don't run nothing but rubrics and folks, what are you doing? Your other stuff does not give you Cabal points. Why would you run it? So I genuinely think that T-Suns have a lot of power. Making the Occult Terminators go down in points is, I mean, it didn't go down a ton, but it went down, and that's cool, I guess, for the most part. But Demon Princes were run at least a certain amount because of the stealth, and that's pretty good. Vindicators down, which is kind of humorous, but other than that, I genuinely think that T-Suns were a pretty good army already. They got some nice light changes around the board, and everything else went down.
So like with Necrons, I do keep up competitively with Thousand Suns. Your average competitive Thousand Suns list actually lost like 20 points. You have to cut something. Here's the problem. They boosted the point cost of the enhancements that we're seeing play.
So basically, the competitive list took nothing that went down and took both the other things.
But that said, the way we run T-Suns competitively is really fucking lame. It's kind of like a whole lecture on Cabal points and the double-edged sword of them. I love that Cabal points let me still have Psychic in 10th edition. I called it the moment we saw the index all the way back, the first moments of 10th edition. Oh fuck, we're screwed. They didn't fix 9th edition's Cabal points problem of you have to put it on everything because otherwise only things with Cabal points are actually in the army. This remained true and actually even got worse because now we're to the point where a lot of people are arguing it doesn't matter that Scarab Occult Terminators went down in points because it's still less Cabal point efficient than running rubrics.
And you, sir, need that Doom Bolt.
You really do. I do think you were right. Thousand Suns is sleeper very good. Orks is one of our worst matchups and it might be very bad now. That's not the biggest issue though. Like you can be good against everyone but the best guy in the room. I think Thousand Suns will be just fine. I would really like the excuse to run something other than the 1 to 2 units you always run. Sots might actually see some play, meaning we're back up to 2 units instead of 1 unit. Nothing else is going to see play that hasn't already seen play. Sometimes Demon Prince saw play. You are correct there. But the Mauler Fiend doesn't give Cabal points and is 140 points not feeding you Cabal points.
Yeah, I guess for me it's more of just like a, hey, this whole thing was for an army that was very good already and I only see green.
Yeah, the detachment enhancements is where you see the red, and unfortunately that's the actual.
I mean, you definitely have a better look on this than I do when it comes to this kind of thing.
It's not like end of the world or anything. We're still very likely going to be one of the top factions. Now, Thousand Suns always has a downside. This has been said by most people who play a lot more tournaments than me. Never take Thousand Suns to a tournament. It is an extremely tiring army mentally. You can get a lot more free wins by playing a better faction. Like just check the meta, who's the top faction. You won't have to think as hard as the Thousand Suns player does to get the win rate.
Which is lore accurate.
True, and I love it. I do not want that to change. Thousand Suns is one of the last places I still get to think during gameplay in this game. Do not take this from me.
I feel that way when I play Sisters. There's still at least a little bit of mental with that.
I would love more complexity back. Actually, real talk. AOS revealed how 4th edition is doing spells. Fucking gimme. Gimme, 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 gimme. Oh my god, it's everything we wanted. 11th edition. Copy AOS's homework right now.
Is it like points or adjustments to swap out what you can put on a guy?
No, it is literally when you pick your detachment, you get a lore of 6 spells for that detachment. Every spellcaster in your army knows your entire lore.
But you can only use one per.
They can cast one spell. Well, they can cast whatever it says on their data sheet. They can cast X spell, whatever it says, per turn, only one cast of each per turn unless something overwrites because there's always some exception case.
All right, that's pretty great.
And you have like, I think one keyword that is like unlimited that's for one of your spells, or maybe it's on 2, but whatever. There is a keyword that's like unlimited that's like for smite.
Right.
Whatever their smite equivalent in that codex will be. So I love it because it's very simple. It's very in the design of how 10th edition is going. You could slap it right in and everyone would be like, that looks like normal stuff to me. And it's honestly, it's less paperwork than how we did in 9th. Like, I loved Thousand Sun list building in 9th. My least favorite part was double checking every one of my characters to make sure the right guy had the right spell. I wasn't overlapping too much. I had redundancy where I need it. It's like, if I could have just picked from my whole list, it would have saved me a lot of headache and it would have changed very few losses to wins. Like, it wouldn't have been that broken or different. But copy that homework. But anyway, that had nothing to do with the actual points. It's just a great please.
I like it. I mean, at the moment, I agree. Some complexity is really good. I think maybe you might see the Demon Prince Terminator thing a bit more.
I think both of those will start seeing semi-regular play. Demon Prince kind of did.
They also synergize because stealth is very nice, but also it has that ability that gives you precision to Terminators. So a little bit of synergy for that.
Yeah, the Terminators will probably see a lot of play again in the way we were doing them at the beginning of the edition.
I don't know how you feel about this. I would certainly like it if everything in K-Suns gave you Cabal points and we just upped the general cost of spells.
Literally what I thought was happening when we got the first reveal of Thousand Suns keeping Cabal points. We talked about it on air, but I was like, holy shit, they're going to fix my one complaint of 9th edition's Codex, which was everything needed Cabal points. They made Cabal points the army rule, and the army rule affects the whole army. Therefore, every one of my models should have Cabal points written on it. So even my Rhino will give me a Cabal point. That'd be great. Even my Mauler Fiend will give me a Cabal point. That'll be great. And then, nope, they didn't learn a goddamn thing. They just misspoke on the actual Warcom article that announced it.
Well, in that case, I mean, I'm expecting K-Suns to really kind of push themselves up in the win rate as other top armies went down. Not necessarily anything to do with K-Suns being significantly better. I think it's more of a circumstantial thing, but we'll see. I see like 1% to 2% increase, nothing crazy.
We'll come back in 12 weeks to find out.
All right, Tyranids. I'm actually a really big fan of the Nids. As far as the codexes go, they felt like a wet fart, and in a lot of ways it was, and their win rate is not very good, but I just like, I like a lot of Nid builds. I think there's got a lot of builds. Their builds are not great, but it's like, hey, here's your one amazing build that keeps you at 46, and then everything else is bad. I think there's like 4 builds that will all keep you at 46.
That's the problem, is they're fine at staying just inside of the target window, but like the way they tend to win is to play like Necrons did in 9th, of like, don't play the game, just try to get as many objectives before you get wiped off the board and win through points. That tends to be how most of them play right now. One of their problems was they have like 0 anti-tank. All of their monsters fucking suck at actually taking on other monsters and vehicles. Zoanthropes going down is probably the one like really big change for their weak point. They probably needed more, but at a certain point I think it has to happen in other ways. Like it needs like an actual data sheet level fix on some of their monsters to actually give them like the oomph to actually crack things open. It's unfortunate to have to rely on Battle Shock for your army rule.
Yeah, if Battle Shock was better, it would be better, but it's not.
We can steal that AOS homework too of everyone knows no fear, just move on. Every one of my armies that deals with Battle Shock always feels bad, and it felt bad when it was everything else. Battle Shock's still probably the best version we've had of leadership, just it's probably out of place in the game.
With Battle Shock, I think as its own right, the effects Battle Shock does don't matter. But when you start stacking, like, if a unit is Battle Shocked, they get this minus, hey, sometimes matters. I mean, for a long time, the main way to deal with tanks was to stick a Neurolictor up there, hit something with Battle Shock, hope it fails, and if it did, they had -1 a hit, and you had +1 to wound against it. And that was like how you bodied it.
But that's kind of the problem, is that's how Nids had to body tanks.
Right, and that's not good.
Instead of just jam the Carnifex in there, throw those Hive Tyrants around. Oh, they don't do very much, do they?
Yeah.
Swarmlord went down to 240 points. If you read Swarmlord, I don't think you're going to take him yet.
I don't think you are either. Getting CP is very good. Having a Vect is also very good. Tyrant Guard going down, also pretty cool. His melee 923 with Twin Linked, that actually can do tanks because of Twin Linked, but like not great. And he's 240 points, which is really high.
This doesn't sound that bad. This doesn't sound that bad. Oh my god, that's 240 points. And this is after getting chopped.
T10, 2-up save, 10 wounds. That's scary, but you know what that is? That's a Demon Prince save. Demon Prince is 180. Does he have a Vect and give you CP? No, but he is 180 and he gets actual rules and army rules that make him better.
The one that is like spiciest to me, but I think is nothing, is the Psychophage.
Dude, I saw that too, and I was like, wait, that wasn't close to 100 last time I saw it. How far did it go down? 30 points.
My problem is it's like with a Hellbrute or an Old Dread or the Scorpec Lord. It's doing a whole bunch of things in bad ways, all combined. And it's like, I guess it's there for being a 6-up Feel No Pain aura for 95 points. Like, that's basically what I see it as right now, because, yeah, technically it can deal some damage. It's got some weird shit going on. I don't know. And it's like, it literally is just an aura.
Okay, so I half agree with you on that one. I have been messing around with a special list for my Palm Springs tournament, and I wanted to run the list called 3 Hour Lunch, which was a Tyranid list with nothing but giant monsters. It was 3 Screamer Killers, 3 Haruspecs, 3 Molochs, and then like 3 Psychophages.
This is my wife's average list, yes.
I mean, you know, I might run Crusher Stampede just for the memes, even though it sucks. But the Psychophage at 95, I don't care about the Feel No Pain aura. I care about the fact that it's T9 with a 3-up save and 10 wounds with a 5-up Feel No Pain for itself at 95 points.
That sounds great until you realize they're just going to stand on the objective with you because you can't kill them.
That's fine. He is there to run up and smash things. And by smash, I mean...
He's honestly a better Distraction Carnifex than a Distraction Carnifex right now. You are correct.
Yes, his whole point is he is disposable. He's extremely disposable. I throw him up there and I charge him into whatever I can, and I use his giant base to block everything I can.
Okay, that's a fair way to think of it. I was more thinking of it like just park him on mid, and honestly I was like, he doesn't do anything. But like, if you're trying to make him in the way,
he is very in the way.
Yeah, okay, very cute.
It's cute. It's not great. I will say I have been messing around with the Vanguard group of Tyranids, which I think might have something going on.
I like that detachment. I don't think it's ever going to be the best detachment. I still think the Index detachment's the best thing they've had the whole time.
I would most likely agree.
The Vanguard is the other really spicy one to me, although Unending Swarm has its uses. Tyranids feels like a close miss on their codex. Like, there are so many things where I look at it, I'm like, I can sell this. This is pretty good. Every one of these I at least can like sell myself on temporarily until we get into the details, but then it's just like every detachment is worse than basically everybody else other than AdMech. All of your units feel just like with Necrons at 9th of like the beta test data sheet before everybody else's came out. It just seems like everyone's missing an AP on the high end or a strength on the high end.
I look at Tyranid stuff and I see, okay, Tyranid warriors went down, both with ranged and melee. Tyranid warrior melee with a little winged Tyranid prime is like 215, 7 models total. Advance and charge the Vanguard Onslaught. You know, kind of spooky. Vanguard Onslaught with Broodlord and 10 Genestealers is like 240, 260 or something like that. Gives them dev wounds on their attacks. They have like 4 each, so if you do it properly, it's like 40 attacks. With dev, reroll, wound roll of 1 on an objective marker. Like, you know, they've got these annoying kind of possibilities. I actually think a Winged Tyranid Prime in the base detachment with the bioweapons is quite cheap. It's 195 for that. It gives them sustain hits 1, and you can do some fun stuff like with a Hive Tyrant making a free strat to give them 5-up criticals with their like venom cannons, which aren't awful, you know, especially because you can give them sustained, and if you take like the lethal hits attachment thing, then you get both. There's some kind of fun things there, but it's all just in service of the most wet noodle options out there.
I think the only change here that matters is the Zoanthrope.
I'm giving the warriors a little bit.
And the gargoyles going up is actually a real bad kick in the balls for like one of the major ways to actually stay at your 46% win rate.
I also think Barb Gaunts are a little sleeper because they're so annoying. They're just infuriating with what they do.
I think a lot of the Tyranid stuff is like, at its best, it's fine. And then we look at Orks.
Tyranids, they seem like they wanted to make them into like a blue deck, you know, if we're going Magic terms. It felt like it was like, okay, this is a fun control thing, which isn't quite the Tyranid power fantasy, but like, you know, Shadow in the Warp, okay, got a lot of debuffs, all right, and then you come in for the kill, but Battle Shock doesn't matter, and therefore your control deck is bad. Let's go into something more Oonga Boonga. Let's do World Eaters to round this out.
All right, they undid some of what they did to you. You went from too good to so good they couldn't put put you on where you were in their data to nerfing you to unnerfing you a bit. And from what I've heard from people who were playing current competitive World Eaters, nothing that actually went back down really affected the list that they were playing. Like, people are just spamming 8-bound or whatever right now. One psychopath was playing Cornlord of Skulls.
Dude, Cornlord of Skulls, I think is, maybe it's not sleeper, but it actually kind of hits. That thing is chunky.
It's like Morkanot, where, like, I'm not going to say it's good, but honestly, if you look at it on paper for its points, you're like, this is a fine knight equivalent.
I find the Cornlord of Skulls very funny as a way to bring back Angron, because it has the ability for each enemy unit destroyed by the Cornlord of Skulls in the previous battle round, you can add or subtract 1 from the dice rolled.
Oh, to manipulate it. That's cute. That's
so
cute.
You can kind of like bring back, the Lord of Skulls has a reservoir of hate and now Angron's back better than you expected.
I'm just imagining your 1,000-point game and it's Angron, a Lord of Skulls, and do we have enough points left? Yes, we can still run 5 Corn Berserkers.
And then we're done. I'm very much if I had the models, I would run 60 Zerkers and like 30 Jackals, because that just to me screams corn. Throw a couple characters in there, and maybe if I have the extra points, I'll put Angron in the front to make you scared. And like, that's it. So I love that, because Zerkers going down 10 for 10 and 20 is actually like nothing. But yeah, I'm not necessarily expecting this to be life changing.
Yeah, so I guess to round this out, do we want to give any Cliff Notes, final thoughts the whole way through?
I'm thoroughly whelmed across the board. Some things like, oh my god, here come the Orks, while on the other hand, Necrons deserved, and guard Leman Russ. We'll see how it turns out. We'll CSM here. Like, it's just, in a weird way, I like the fact that they're doing these small changes in so many different areas. It feels like the right calls a lot of the times. But then there's just so many head scratchers, like Deathwatch, for example, just not even existing as an army.
Possible foreshadowing.
I don't know. This is a nothing burger, because besides like Necrons and Orks, because there's no data slate.
So with the last data slate, I argued part of my problem was putting changes in the data slate rather than properly fixing up the data sheets was like a band-aid solution. I would prefer if they went the more patch notes route and then actually did changes in the proper locations where they should be. But again, this gets into the whole digital rules argument I'll have for the millionth time. I feel like this change kind of accents that with like, points are a really cheap, easy, no effort way to try to make changes, but it's also the worst way to affect heavy change. To make differences in points for lists in ways that can be felt, you have to make such drastic changes that people are going to start complaining about, now my army needs an extra 3 units that it didn't to play at 2,000 points. Or the opposite end of like, holy crap, now my army costs 2,500 points when you should have gone for a rules change instead and kept the points. I still want changes to how they handle things. And I think one of the big ones is like, you cannot use the excuse of we're only touching the data slate every 6 months. Promise to touch it every 3 months, and sometimes it may not need a change. That would be fine, but you need to be willing to do it every 3 months.
There's a lot of people who ask for video game style patches with this.
That's what I've been asking for, is for a proper, like, give me a patch notes and then apply the rules where they belong digitally. So like, I can go read the patch notes and go, ooh, my data sheets and Necrons changed. Then I can go to my digital rules and I can look up, oh yeah, look at this new data sheet iteration.
I meant more of they are expecting that level of cadence, which I think is ridiculous. But I agree, the rules need to be digital. I mean, we've had this, we've both talked about this a million times. Codex is fancy art book, make it collectors, up your price for the collectors, make it all fun for the shelf. Digital rules, we've been over it a million times. But expecting some kind of League of Legends every 2 weeks thing is insane. 3 months is good though.
3 months is a fucking Magic set before Magic went full hog and tried to make a new set every week. 3 months is a very acceptable turnaround time for you to be doing something at your job. A 12-week project is a long fucking time to be working on something. I feel for GW in certain ways, but at the same time, you could have fixed AdMech right now instead of 3 months from now. It didn't have to be a perfect fix. It just had to be something to show you tried, and then in 3 months you can come back and go, all right, we were 5% off. Let's change it like this instead.
3 months ago, you knew AdMech needed data slate changes. 12 weeks is enough time
At the last data slate where you did not change them, but we all gave you the excuse because we knew that they had only been out for 7 weeks.
But now you knew, and you knew you had to do it, and you didn't, and that's annoying.
We're at basically 20 weeks of knowing that they feel like dog shit to play. You can argue they're still at a 45% if you do exactly this. And it's not even like a fun exactly this. Like, this is where it's frustrating. It's like the current state of the meta is not bad. I still expect more.
Please put number next to arrow.
If we could have one takeaway, please put the number next to the arrow.
I am a simple man and I ask for not too much. Number next to arrow, so know what amount, please. So know if happy cause 5 or crazy cause 30. Call went down 30 points, and you're not going to see him still, but I saw him at a 150, and I was like, oh, I guess he went down a little bit, and realized that at one point he was 180, and I was flown out of my chair.
The Swarmlord went down 30 points. I'm pretty sure that's what it did last data slate.
Lionel Johnson went down 50. Please put number.
I feel like they've done it. I know they did it. They did it in 9th edition in articles where they would show off like trying to wow you and being like, look, the Land Raider, every variant down 25 points. And then the data slate itself, when it came out, was just a pile of points. You had to figure out what happened.
I do remember that. Yeah, they had like little graphics and stuff. You're right.
You have that Warcom team writing those useless articles every day of the week. Put those interns to work, putting the number next to the arrow.
It is gotten to the point where the small indie company of Games Workshop has finally made it big, but now you have to start acting big, and you're not.
I get it. I've worked in the auto industry. I know how ancient you can be working on legacy systems for far too long, but we gotta be better.
I have 3 simple requests. 1, do the codex thing Brad complained about last time. If he pulls out cost per word, there's an issue. 2.
That was my pettiest moment, I think, on this entire podcast in 100-something episodes. I don't think I've ever been so petty.
All right, 1.5. Do the virtual rules thing, but that's I'm being a dead horse at that point. 2. Data slate every 3 months with points, please.
Even if you say no changes, I want you to have the balls to say we think this is fine.
And 3, point number next to arrow. That's all I need, and then I'll be okay. All right, Brad, how do we round this out?
I feel bad because I feel like we're very down. There are a lot of solid changes in here. A lot of things are in the right window. People are just bored.
I think you just said it right there. People are just a little bored, and this does not alleviate any boredom.
If they had walked out, like fucking dropped their drawers and said, everyone is getting an extra indexed attachment, everyone would have lost their shit even if they forgot to update points. Everyone would have lost their shit. It would have been the greatest day ever in 10th edition, right? We'd be talking until 3 a.m. and I'd be late for work tomorrow.
I almost feel bored bitching about nothing to bitch about. Is that not a sign of the most Warhammer player you've ever heard? I'm so bored I have nothing to complain about.
Anyway, luckily, this episode is the first of 2 you get to listen to over the next 7 days. We have book club coming later this week. Bricky won't be there, but the rest of us normal people will. Thank you for joining me for this, Bricky. I am very happy I still got to record even though Eric's stuck out of town.
Thank you very much for inviting me so quickly. I'm glad I got a chance to talk about this despite it being not anything.
I know, I was really excited when you were like, yeah, we'll do it. And then I saw the actual changes. I was like, oh, I wanted more to talk about. Which, again, sums up everything. But with all of that done, we're done bitching. No more yapping. Whatever the other things kids are saying right now. Cue the music and let's get out of here.